Right. Welcome to troubleshooting. They start off with troubleshooting pretty early on, right? This is pretty early in the certifications, and that's fantastic because a large amount of what you're going to do if you go into technology is troubleshooting. That's what it is. You're going to install things. You need to know how that works and install it. You need to upgrade things. You need to know how that works and upgrade it. And you need to troubleshoot it. You need to know how that works and why it may not be working correctly. And throughout the whole process, you're planning and changing things. And so they talk about heavily about, hey, this is the process of troubleshooting. But what makes a good troubleshooter? Well, good troubleshooting comes from knowing. And so I'm not just talking about knowing the troubleshooting techniques that are there. I'm talking about knowing the things that you need to know. And so all this information that they're telling you is not just to introduce you to a world of technology and allowing you to work in it. It's also there to allow you to fix it, to understand enough to fix it. And that means trying to keep that stuff in your head. And I tell my students all the time, you try to keep, I know it's a lot of information, you're just learning all this stuff, but you try to keep that stuff in your head. You try to put those pieces together because I promise you, I know because I've done it, that when you go out and you start to do things, you'll start to be able to pull out that information from your head and use it. The first thing is if you don't know, then you can't troubleshoot it. Good example is I had a person that I knew, we'll just say that, and they were having a difficulty on a computer, and that computer wouldn't play music. And so they determined that what they would do is flash the BIOS. And so flashing the BIOS is kind of a severe thing to do if it goes wrong. Uh, but that's not what I would have done because the BIOS on this particular machine didn't have anything to do with the audio, right? So how would that cause a problem with not being able to play back things? That it would be some other problem. I knew that BIOS on the computer does these things, and what you're trying to fix is not one of those things. So how's that going to help? So that's where the knowing comes in. You're learning a bunch of stuff in here. It's not just about trying to pass a test. It's about, I need to get this in my head because someday somebody may say, gosh, I'm having this network problem, and you'll start pulling out IP6 information or IP4 information out of your head, trying to figure out what that issue is with them. Right? Now, experience is also really important, and that just comes with time. So the way experience really affects what you know is the fact that new updates come out, new ways of doing things come out, but that's not as big. Right? I've been working in this industry a long time. The knowledge you're learning here is pretty much the same knowledge I was teaching 15 years ago. But certain drivers work certain ways, and certain operating systems need that installed before the other. That's where the experience comes in, where you're applying the knowing. I know that this is the issue, so I need to do these things. And as you start to do those things, you realize, oh, that's not working right. And you gain experience through that, and you go, oh, I have to do these other two things before. So it's a different thing. A calm head is the next thing. In other words, relax. We'll figure this out. Of course, you have to be willing to find the answer. Some people just aren't. If you go through this course and you really didn't like the information, the course did its job, right? You go, I don't like this. I'm not going to go into this. Thank goodness I didn't waste my life, right, doing that. You have to be willing to find an answer. And if you feel that that's not you, well, I really don't care if your monitor doesn't work. I really don't care to help you with that. Then it's probably a different field you want to go into. It's just like medicine, you know. I don't know how many doctors you've been to, but I've been to some that it's like, clearly you went into this for the money because you don't seem to care about anything I'm telling you, right? They're not willing. They don't really care. And then humility to ask. That's, to me, that's the final line right there. You don't know. Oh, gosh, what do I do? I don't know. Well, you don't just sit there. You ask. Now, if you're always asking, right, then that's a problem because they hired you to fix the problems. But they know when they first hire you, you're going to ask and you're going to ask and you're going to ask. right? That's part of it. You're getting that experience, you're getting that knowing and solidifying things better. And these days, I can't tell you how important it is to become a good internet searcher. Go out and be able to find an answer, because the internet now, with all the wealth of information out there, is a fantastic troubleshooting tool. You're looking in the company database and it doesn't have any definition of how to solve that problem. You hit the internet and you're like, they tried this. This is what we're going to do, right? So humility to be able to say, I don't know what the answer is. Let's go find out. Now I'm going to come in here we use a product called Test Out in a few of our classes, and it's got different troubleshooting tips. And so we're going to just quickly go through them because they went through these, but they kind of go through them a little different. So the very first step is to identify the problem, and that's where that knowing comes in. You ask questions, right? What did you get error messages? So when did this happen? Right? You ask all these questions, but the whole idea of asking the questions, right, is to fill in what you know about the computer or the network. I know these things and it should behave or shouldn't behave this way or that way. So I'm asking questions to you about error messages and when it happened, what you think might have caused the problem. I'm going to look in log files to see if anything can help me there, because I'm trying to use what I have combined with whatever the person has to identify what the actual issue is. Right? You need to identify the issue. You can't just go headlong into something. Now the next is back up the system. So this is directly talking about the computer, the phone, whatever it is, the device that you're using. I better back this sucker up because I may not think I'm going to screw something up, but I might. And I can tell you another story. I had a person that went and we need a new upgrade on this computer. Okay, we'll get an upgrade. So they got this hard drive, and it's a very easy thing, to put a hard drive in and copy the data over. So they grab that hard drive and they're doing it right in front of the person. They didn't take the computer back to where it could be safely done. They brought the hard drive in, and I'm thinking, this could go bad. Now, the honest truth is 99.98% of the times that's not going to happen. Well, it did this time. It cost that company $600 to retrieve the data from that hard drive. Something happened when he put in the new drive and it killed the old one. And I would say that that's probably some static electricity that caused that, but it fried it. He wasn't expecting that, right? He wasn't expecting that to happen. Back up the system, right? Make sure that you've got a backup someplace. If you can't do that, then you can't do it. But you want to identify all the possible causes of the problem. That's something that people just don't do enough of. I honestly, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm really not. I just want to give you my experience in life, and hopefully you can take from that. But I have people that are in the business, right? They're still out there doing security or network tech or systems admin or whatever. And from time to time, they'll call me and they'll go, you know what, I got this problem and I can't seem to correct it. Could you help me out? And so I say, yeah, what are you doing? Describe. You start working with the software. How does it approach the network? I go through a whole series of questions asking them things so that I can figure out what are the possible causes of this person's problem. And then usually I can tell them, honestly, I say, well, I don't know anything about this, but I think the config files are screwed up, right? That's where that's going to pull that information from. I don't think it's saving that config data or whatever it happens to be. And I'm able to do that just because I know how do you divide up an issue and identify what could be causing that. And that's a super, super important thing. Now, once you identify what you think it is, right, that's your theory. That's your theory of what's happening. So then that's when you're going to actually say, let's test that theory. You will change something in order to test it. For instance, an easy one would be somebody calls up and says, oh yeah, my computer won't log into the network. And you say, oh, well, that's interesting. Anything changed since the last time? Because obviously the network was working before and now it's not. So something changed in between there. and you're trying to figure out what that change is. That's a big, huge portion of that. What's changed since it did work? And they say, oh, well, I did see this thing come up and about some update. All right, so you look and you find out, yeah, actually our server pushed an update around the time that you're talking about. So let's reverse that update. Right, that's testing the theory. That's actually saying, well, what changed? There was an update. So let's see if that was the problem. We reverse the update and either it corrects it or we go on to the next theory. And that is part of actually creating an action plan. And so most of this, again, you kind of just start doing in your head, but I just described those two things and also testing the solution. But the thing that's really, really important about testing the solution is that you ensure that it actually worked. I can't tell you how many customer service reps fail in every industry because they really don't give a crap. And so what they do is they go, oh, blah, 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 blah. That looks like it worked. Okay, we'll see you later. And that's not going to get you the promotion. You can make a lot of money in customer service. I mean, I didn't mention this, but there was a guy I knew that basically tried to retire, and the company didn't want him to so badly that they let him actually continue to get paid what he was getting paid, but only working half the time he was working. And he moved out to Montana and bought himself a ranch, and all he had to do was get on the phone and talk to people because he was so good at making sure the customer was satisfied. That's a big part of this. You test the solution, you make sure that that actually works, and then you ensure that they're satisfied with what's happened. And then the last one, which I was always really bad at, was actually documenting the solution. I can't tell you how many times that I was so busy that I'd run into a problem, I'd fix the problem, it took me 2.5 hours to fix. And then I was so busy doing other things that I never wrote down what it was. And then 2 weeks later, I'm staring at the same problem, trying to remember, crap, what was this? And if I had documented it, I could have read it and go, oh, okay, these 3 steps. I'm done. Thanks a lot. They're more happy. I'm more happy. So you actually, almost every institution will have a way to document it. But if you're doing this kind of work on your own, then create your own Excel file or just put it in a notepad, whatever you need to do. If you have questions on troubleshooting or advice on different things that you're trying to troubleshoot, let me know. But that's it for this presentation on troubleshooting. Have a good one.